Well, morning, Darren. And before we talk about the Cup game coming up, firstly, again, congratulations on Tuesday. Well done on a good run of results. I'm sure the fans are, all appreciating it and all enjoying it. So, thank you very much for that. So let's talk about the FA Cup. I read this week that Ronnie Radford passed away, and he had his moment of glory, obviously knocking out Newcastle United. Woking have had. I remember Tim Bazaglo, Steve Thompson, who are still having songs sung about them 30 years later. Last year it was Mark Ricketts, former Woking captain, at his moment of glory, getting the winner against Bournemouth. So it's almost like every year there's a standout moment or a standout personality. I mean, I just wanted to ask you first, what are your early memories of the FA Cup? What does it mean to you?
Well, they're the first games I remember being on the TV, because obviously it wasn't as readily available back then, football as it is now. And I am a Man United fan, and so those late 80s, early 90s were kind of key moments in the Sir Alex Ferguson era. And that Nottingham Forest game in the third round, I think it was the third or fourth round, where Mark Robins scored to supposedly keep Sir Alex Ferguson in his job. That's probably the first game I remember on the TV,
right,
ever.
Yeah.
So I would have been 6 or 7. So and I remember clearly the pass Mark Hughes played. I remember the goal, the header, the bounce before he leant forward and headed it in. So, but that, my generation and the generations before me, less so now, I guess. The FA Cup was the equivalent now of the Champions League final. I mean, it was everything.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a game, it was a day. It was a day. And it was a day that everyone really bought into, especially, probably going up through the 90s as well. It was still there, but Wembley Way and the old stadium, it was a proper arena and for football, for sport. So, like many people my age and your age, this was the premier competition, probably in the world. I don't think it's still that to others, but I think it'll always be that to people like us.
Just picking up on that, a lot of our players now are younger, so they won't have known that sort of get up at 9 o'clock, get breakfast, turn the TV on, you're there till 5 or 6, that sort of thing. So it's not quite the same. So what do you think with what do you think of, say, players at our level? How do they view the FA Cup?
The young players at our level or the older players at our level?
Well, both, I suppose, really, if there's any difference.
Well, I think someone like Cuthbert and Armand, I'm trying to think of the old ones, I guess they would see it very similar to you and I. There's Daly, Lofthouse, Johnson. I don't really know. All I know is the FA Cup was something that was indoctrinated into you, of how important it was, how big it was, how illustrious the day, everything. I've been very, very lucky to work with people who have played in it, captained in it, got good friends that have played in it, and they speak how we would speak about it as the day. In terms of National League players, how do they think of it? In terms of the professionalism of it, they understand the competition, and they'll understand it at the varying degrees that I've tried to describe. But it'll be another game they want to win. And you can't differentiate winning between the competition. It's impossible. You're not a winner if you say that. We just want to win every game that we play in. That's all we want to do. So the same focus from me to the players, or leadership from me to the players, is, can we prepare to win? Can these vital principles of play, elements to the game, can they help us get closer to that win? And we're talking about a fairly sizable bridge here between the two teams. And those elements hopefully get us a little bit of the way across that bridge, and then the players and the big man take us the rest of the way. And they'll know if they do that what can come eventually. But what can come eventually? I mean, it's just a ridiculous notion in professional sport to even sit there and consider, because things turn very, very quickly in this game.
And playing a team that are 2 levels above, does that change preparation and approach? I mean, in terms of...
It definitely changes approach. I mean, it has to. I mean, we respect every opponent that we play. We try and work as hard against what are deemed the lower teams as we do the higher teams. But Oxford have certain qualities that are immeasurable in terms of our division, and we have to try and adapt to that as best we can. Now, if we've got players in our squad that have ambitions, which I know we have, and they're not just the young ones, to attempt to play at that level regularly, well, I've definitely heard a few of them talk about their futures and what they hope for it. They've called it on. They've got to show up. So these games are always a nice benchmarker, and it's always a nice reality of where you are. I mean, I played Oxford many years ago at Stevenage, and that was a League 2 club against a League 1 club, and we got beat 7-1. I mean, these are good clubs. These are very, very good clubs. So to think that our approach to play Yeovil is going to be the same as to play Oxford would be very naive, very, very inexperienced, and downright stupid. So we'll have to make certain adaptations to our play. We can't drastically go from one to the other, because the recruitment says that we are A and not B. And we'll have to just be professional in terms of the process. Process is try to be as professional as we always are, and try and get the players as well prepared and well motivated as possible.
I won't ask you for any details of what your preparation, what your plans are and everything, but I think you're off up to training in a moment, and how the preparation's been going generally.
But the great thing about our team so far is we've got a foundation to how we play, and we don't really need to go away from that foundation, because, like I said, we recruited around that way. So the great thing about this group, win, lose or draw, we've always got a base that we can refer to say, okay, the minimum expectation for us is this base, and we can then go back and work on that base. Sometimes we leave that too long, and we need to address that a little bit sooner to avoid that loss or lower performance or lesser performance. So we can always do that. So our preparation is always around that foundation. So we just continually work around that foundation. I never ever. I think one of my strengths as a coach is recognising what the team can do rather than what the team can't. And all my teams have played differently. We've similar threads through in terms of attitude and work ethic, aggression in particular. But all the teams have played differently because they're all different players and they're all different attributes and ingredients. We can't get too far away from that, but we have to make adaptations to what, out of respect for the opponent. Do we still have to retain that thread and that foundation? Absolutely. We can never come away from that, win, lose or draw.
Thank you. And finally, just a word about the Sunday and the crowd we're going to get. Again, I could, getting nostalgic today, but I can remember bringing my 8-year-old boy down for the Coventry game, stood on a stool at the front, packed crowd, and it's one of those memories you never forget, and he'll never forget.
That would have breached health and safety though, wouldn't it?
It probably would. There were lots of things that breached health and safety in those days, different times.
I can hear the FA ringing now.
So it's a great experience. So I know Oxford have almost sold their whole allocation, we're doing well. It's certainly a packed crowd. And I know we're not in the third round, but the Lathwaite Community Stadium, when it's got a full crowd on a cup day, can be a rocking place. So that would be good, wouldn't it? Just having that connection with the...
Well, the attitude of the players and the supporters have almost been aligned from the start. And I've said this already this morning, and I've said it to you in the past. The York game was the foundation for that. The York game was the foundation for that, because we were very, very poor that day, but we showed the maximum amount of respect to our supporters for their performance. And I always think that the connection between the players and the supporters is the hardest job for the manager, and probably the most rewarding job for the manager. And we're starting to develop that, and it's getting closer. And I thought Tuesday night, and I'm not sure the attendance Tuesday night, I'm sure that was less than what it's going to be Sunday, but the atmosphere was excellent. And that's the attitude of the supporters and the players. That's the only thing that drives that. It's nothing to do with me. It's the attitude of the supporters and the players, and that relationship is more important than anything. And if the attitude remains like that, and it can, if we always stay grounded and realistic, that's why we're so good, or we've been so good here, and that's why 7 of the 8 clean sheets have come here, because of that rapport. And if we can carry on developing that in larger numbers, even better, even better, and the atmosphere will be great. And that's the best thing about these old grounds. The old grounds have a feel and a smell to them that is different to these new arenas, events. They're almost becoming events now. And we've got to use it, we've got to use that to our advantage, because it is an advantage, because the evidence tells us that our supporters are an advantage. So, hopefully we can develop that further this weekend. But worst case, from me, myself, and John, and Drew, and the players, we'll always show the maximum amount of respect that we can to what they give to us and what they give up for us, and their effort, because effort, as we can see right now with our team, is everything.
Brilliant, thank you. And the message to any fans watching are still wondering whether to come on Sunday, get on down here, don't miss the occasion. But you'll do your bit, we'll do our bit, and we'll see where it takes us.
Meet in the middle.
And if there's an FA Cup fine, I'll pay it. Well, no, my son will pay it.
Yeah. Thank you.